Hi, Claire and James here. Just before we get stuck into this week's episode, we wanted to let you know the exciting news that the Midlife Reset audit is now live. This is a first of its kind personalised diagnostic tool designed for midlifers by midlifers.
In just 3 minutes, the audit will help you pinpoint what's really holding you back from living your healthiest, happiest midlife, and most importantly, provide tailored strategies on how to take back control. Midlife doesn't have to be a time of uncertainty. It can be an era of growth, discovery, and well-being. So to go ahead and take the audit, go to themidlifementors.com/audit.
Are you feeling fulfilled at midlife? In this week's episode, we're joined by Bernie Borges, the founder of the Midlife Fulfilled podcast and an advocate for finding purpose and happiness in midlife. Bernie is all about redefining what it means to live a fulfilling life beyond the standard metrics of career success and financial stability.
Bernie shares the insights he's gained from his recent research report on midlife fulfillment, and we dive into some powerful conversations about the realities of midlife, the struggles, the transitions, and the incredible opportunities that come with it. Hi, I'm James Davis.
And I'm Claire Davis.
We're the Midlife Mentors, here to lift the lid on how to achieve health and happiness.
The balanced, no-nonsense way.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Midlife Mentors podcast with me, James.
And me, Claire. I was just saying that I've lost my voice ever so slightly because I've been at an event where I've been talking for about 3.5 hours and my voice is going slightly. But I don't actually think that will ever stop me talking as much as I do anyway.
I already know that.
James, listen, I've already started taking over the podcast already with a sore throat.
Just before we came on, Claire's like, I'm not going to say much because of my throat. And look at that, straight away.
I bet sometimes you just wish she had a really sore throat and really couldn't speak. She would just be silent for a bit.
Never.
Oh,
never.
yeah.
I love listening to you.
Yeah, my dart for dulcet tones. Yeah. So yes, I've just been at an event. That was really fun. Love doing in-person events. It's always nice rather than the online stuff. But actually, speaking of which, I've got an online workshop that I'm running tomorrow around the menopause and being an ally at work and at home around the menopause. That's exciting.
You're busy doing that. Yesterday I was at a major search engine. I was sitting on a panel about menopause in the workplace. Yeah. And tomorrow I'm going up north to a power company to talk about the same thing. So
up north.
And then of course on Saturday we're at the Clean and Tidy Home Show as well.
We are.
We're again giving a talk and sitting on a panel. So
let's hope my voice gets better from then.
I'm sure it will.
Anyway, we digress. We've got a really, really exciting guest on our podcast today. James, Mr. D, would you like to introduce?
So we're talking about midlife fulfillment. So we're really thrilled to have on a guy who's been podcasting for years. Actually, he's done like hundreds and hundreds of different podcasts on different guises. But it's Bernie Borges. At the moment, he has his podcast, the Midlife Fulfilled podcast. He's a fulfillment architect, and he's just produced this report about thriving in midlife. Welcome, Bernie.
Hello, Bernie.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Claire. Super excited to be with you today. I love your podcast. I am a listener of your podcast, as you both know.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you for bearing with us while we just had our bit of banter at the beginning of our podcast there. Right, so let's dive in and talk to you, Bernie, especially about this survey that you've been doing around thriving in midlife. This is such a topic that's so close to our heart.
Yeah, it's a major piece of work. I mean, you kindly sent it through to us. Like, what inspired you to actually pull this report together? Why did you think, I need to do this?
So when I first launched the Midlife Fulfilled podcast back in February of 2022, I did what I would call a casual survey. I just reached out to people through my email list and my network on LinkedIn. And I got about 150 or so responses. And I produced a small report. It was only 7 questions. And then late last year, 2023, I decided I wanted to do another report, but this time more meaningful. So I reached out to my friends at Udemy, and they agreed to partner with me on producing this report. And we put together a survey of 42 questions spanning all aspects of fulfillment across what I call, as you both know, my 5 pillars, right? And those 5 pillars are health, fitness, career, relationships, and legacy. So we set out to really drive a research initiative to really understand what people over 40 are dealing with, where they're feeling fulfilled, where they're struggling, and also not just for individual consumption, meaning for insights for individuals, but also importantly for leaders at organizations so that they can understand how they can be driving fulfillment centric leadership strategies to really drive employee engagement, which is very important in an organization, as well as retention. So that's kind of the why behind this report. It's 157 pages long. As you know, you've got a copy of it. But we work hard to really produce a great executive summary that really summarizes the key findings. And then, as you know, there's a great table of contents that's clickable because it's all digital, and you can just hop around, skip around on whatever topic you want to drill down into. So that's really the kind of the story behind the report.
I got to say, it is a great report.
Yeah, it really
it's really interesting reading.
It really is.
The stats that come out of there. Just tell us a bit about the age distribution and geographical distribution of the respondents.
Yeah. So the most of the people who took the report, who took the survey, were over the age of 40. And the way the distribution works is 39% were in their 50s, 26.4% were in their 60s, and then 23.2% were in their 40s. So again, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And if you do some quick math, you'll notice that adds up to, let's call it 89%, depending on if you round up or not, which is obviously not 100%. So there were a few people that were under 40, and there were also some people that were in their 70s and beyond. But James and Claire, I've done some research on the 80-20 principle. And first of all, the 80-20 principle is not meant to be literal, like not literally 80-20. It's sort of a principle. And it's in play in so many areas of society. And here it is in play right here, right? About 80% of the people, and 530 people took the survey, by the way. And about 80% of them were in their 40s, 50s, and 60s.
So just a question, what were the main findings? I hope you don't mind me jumping straight in, because I think this is going to be, I found it so fascinating reading the report. So I was like, oh, that's so relevant to our listeners. So let's just jump in and maybe talk about a summary of some of the key findings.
Yeah. So the key findings are, in fact, summarized in the executive summary. I've jokingly said that, the executive summary might give you everything you need, but the table of contents makes it really easy to drill down. But so we asked questions across each of the 5 pillars. And one of the first questions we asked is, how fulfilled are you in each pillar? So just going through each of the 5 pillars, beginning with health. Now, James and Claire, health is both physical and mental health. So it's big, it's really big. So high fulfillment for health came in at 65.7%. I think that's okay, but not great. It's like the glass is a little bit more than half full, right? It's north of 50%. Kind of like you going north tomorrow, James, just a little bit north, right? That's just a little bit north of 50%. That's 65.7% for high fulfillment in the health pillar. But where it really gets a little troubling is in the fitness pillar. Only 47.3% of respondents said that they're highly fulfilled in their fitness pillar. And as you know, because we share this value in common with each other, and that is fitness is just a big, big part of our life. And I should say that the reason that I break out fitness into its own separate pillar, because fitness is closely tied to health, of course, is because fitness is a big part of just how we live our life, and it contributes to our overall happiness and fulfillment in general in so many ways. And again, the high fulfillment was only at 47.3%. So Definitely a lot of room for improvement there.
Mhm.
And then on the career pillar, this one gets really interesting. High fulfillment came in at 61.2%. But here's what's interesting. Later in the survey, remember we asked 42 questions. Later in the survey, and I mean later in the survey, not like the next question. So if you're taking the survey, you've already forgotten that you answered how fulfilled are you in your career pillar. By the time you get to this next question that I'm about to share, and that is, how satisfied are you in your career? And do you know that 75% said that they're very satisfied in their career? But to the question, how fulfilled are you? Only 61% said that they're highly fulfilled.
Mm.
So let me ask the both of you, why do you think there's that discrepancy?
I would guess that satisfaction has to do with the things their career maybe gives them in terms of status or material goods, but fulfillment actually is more aligned with if they feel that they're living to their purpose and values. And I'd say that's where you might get discrepancy. Like, yeah, my job gives me great things in life, but it doesn't really fulfill me that much. That'd be my working hypothesis.
Okay, Claire?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, actually. I think satisfied, I think fulfillment, I think we've spoken about this when we spoke to you last time before this podcast. I think fulfillment is like an intrinsic thing, isn't it? It's aligned with our values. Fulfillment does really give that sense of, I don't know, for me, it's just like almost like a soulful thing, whereas satisfaction, yeah, I'm satisfied with how much money I make. I'm satisfied with the car that it gives me. I'm satisfied with the status that I have because of it.
Yeah, I think you both nailed it. And actually, Claire, you used the word that I used, and that is soul. Fulfillment is soul level deep. It
Mm-hmm.
is in our soul. And fulfillment is usually tied to some achievement. And it can be a small achievement, or it can be a medium sized achievement, or it can be a big achievement. But fulfillment is tied to achievement, and it is soul level deep.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the real kicker on fulfillment. Fulfillment is immutable most of the time. And by immutable, I mean, you can't take it away from me once I have fulfillment in something. So people answering the question, how fulfilled are you in your career? Only 61% said they're highly fulfilled, because they're really thinking about that soul level fulfillment, achievement. And by the way, the survey does put a definition to fulfillment and happiness, so people have context when they took the survey. Whereas the satisfaction question is more around, yeah, I'm satisfied. And
Yeah.
75% said they're highly satisfied.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Just on that, so that I don't forget, sorry, I'm wondering if I'm segueing here a bit too much. Are you able to just explain, if this is okay, what the difference is? Because you did explain it incredibly well, actually, when we spoke before this podcast a few weeks ago, like what the difference between happiness is and fulfillment. Because we always say, like, oh, I'll be happy when I'm really looking for happiness. I really want to be happy, but actually, what do we even mean by that? It's quite an arbitrary term, whereas fulfillment, like you said, has this kind of like soul element to it. So we'd love to hear your understanding of what the difference between happy and fulfilled is.
Absolutely. And again, it was in the survey when we sent out the survey back in May of this year, 2024. We put a definition to fulfillment and we put a definition to happiness. So I've given you my definition of fulfillment, and I'll circle back to it as a sort of a reminder, refresher. But let's talk about happiness. And happiness is basically, it's an emotion, and it can be a fleeting emotion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm happy when the rain stops and the sun comes out. I'm happy when my sports team, my favorite sports team, wins. You know, those are things that I'm happy about. But those happy moments can be short-lived, and they can change. I can be happy and not happy throughout any given day for any number of reasons. But as we just discussed a minute ago, fulfillment is tied to some achievement. And it's either an achievement that we've accomplished ourselves, or it might be an achievement that is somehow bestowed upon us. It might be something that is sort of you're associated with by family or by reputation or by association, but it's still an achievement of some sort. A quick example, I completed my college degree in the evening, going to night school. And it was a long road of 5 years of night school. When I accomplished that achievement, I was fulfilled in achieving my college degree. And that is a fulfillment that nobody and nothing can take away from me, as one simple example of fulfillment. And so in the survey, we asked the question to kind of keep going with the key findings. We asked the question, if hypothetically you could only be fulfilled or you could only be happy, which one would you choose? Now, I don't know if you saw that in the report, so because you didn't tell me before we pressed record, but what do you think? How do you think that shook out? If you could only choose fulfillment or happiness, how do you think it shook
I
out?
know the answer, but I mean, I
You
would
do.
say people go for fulfillment because I guess
Yeah.
if you're fulfilled, you're more likely to be happy anyway.
Yes.
Whereas you could be happy fleetingly without being fulfilled. So I'm going to go, fulfillment is probably the majority answer.
Fulfillment.
Yeah, 79.2% selected fulfillment over happiness. And there's the 80-20 principle in play. And this time it's pretty literal, like almost 80% to the number selected fulfillment and 20.8% selected happiness. And that's with the definition. And by the way, James, you said something interesting. When you're fulfilled, you said you might also be happy. That is an emotion that we can sometimes experience. And so we can sort of conflate sometimes fulfillment and happiness. However, we have these 5 dimensions of our life, right? Health, fitness, career, relationships, and legacy. We can be happy in one area and unhappy in another. We can be fulfilled in one area and unfulfilled in another, right? So it adds that complexity, which is why in the report, we talk a lot about the implications in organizations around these research findings and why leaders, and this is why when I work with leaders at organizations, we're focused on developing a fulfillment-centric leadership strategy so that employees can really understand why they can be fulfilled and how they can be fulfilled across the 5 pillars. And Claire, you said earlier, alignment with values is a big part of that. It's a huge part of that, right? And so when employees are fulfilled across the 5 pillars, and nobody expects 100% fulfillment because that's sort of impossible for most people. But the closer we are to the 100%, then the more engaged employees are and the more they retain and stay within an organization. So those are really some key takeaways from the report. And then getting to the relationship pillar, this one I'm pretty pleased with because 70% said that they have high fulfillment in relationships.
And the thing about what was your gender split of your sample population?
Yeah, the gender split. Let me click on that and look that up real quickly. So it was pretty evenly divided. It was 52.5% female and 47% male. And there was a small slice of, I think, 0.5% who preferred not to answer. So 53 to 47.
I know what you're thinking, because most men bury their head in the sand.
I'm satisfied with my relationship. And I think women tend to be a lot more vocal about going, well, you know, there are things that I would change about it.
Yeah. But
bear in mind that and I didn't mention this, so I don't expect you to know this. The survey was anonymous. We didn't ask for a name or email or any information at all. It was purely anonymous.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're always, when we do menopause workshops and things like that, particularly when I talk to women in organizations and stuff, when we do talk about relationships, a lot of the time we do talk about how the number of women that actually ask for divorce at midlife, it's the biggest increase. It's the biggest, what am I trying to say? Like,
it's the biggest cohort.
See, I've been talking all day and my brain's gone and this is peri-menopause for you, brain fog. But yeah, it's the biggest cohort of it's women basically instigating divorce at midlife, because they're the ones that are kind of reaching forward and saying, I'm not satisfied in my relationship. So I think that's where you were coming from, because we do talk sometimes about the fact that men tend to bury their heads in the sand and say that they're fulfilled, but they might not be, and they might not really understand what they're going on.
In the yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So, but relationships spans a lot of different aspects of life.
Yeah.
There's family, there's work-related relationships, there's local community. But it also spans into spirituality, faith, people of faith. I'm a person of faith. That's a relationship. So it's broader than what meets the eye. It's not just your immediate family. It's very broad.
Very good point. Broad. Yeah, very good point. Very good point. Because we're talking about romantic relationships there, aren't we? Partnerships. So it's a really good point.
And And then the fifth and final pillar is legacy, the legacy pillar. And legacy is all about what impact do you want to have on fill in the blank? Is it an impact you want to have on an individual, your entire family, a community, a cause, whatever it may be? And there's a lot of evidence out there that shows that we tend to think about our legacy as we get older and older. And so, not surprisingly, only 53% said that they're highly fulfilled in their legacy pillar. And that doesn't surprise me because, again, most of the survey participants were not in their 60s; they were in their 40s and 50s, right? So people in 40s and 50s are not quite thinking about his legacy as much as 60s and beyond, right? So, but again, still really valuable for leaders and organizations to understand how people are feeling about, in this example, the legacy pillar.
It's really interesting when you were talking about the fulfillment at work aspect. It's really interesting, like how many organizations just don't touch on this actually, and get this really wrong. You know, there are lots of things that we are talking about well-being at work, but for me, I think this is such an undervalued, but it should be so top of people's list. It's so undervalued to be talking about people's fulfillment, because as you've said, fulfilled people, you're going to retain those people. They're going to be more inspired. They're going to have more energy. They're going to be better role models. It seems like a no-brainer, and yet I imagine there's very, very few people, very few organizations that are really honing in on this fulfillment and also legacy, like you just said, how important that is to people.
Exactly. That's why when I work with organizations, again, I mentioned that I'm really focused on that fulfillment-centric leadership strategy.
Yeah.
And that's really all about with intentionality, creating projects that can enable people to experience fulfillment and creating multiple projects over the span of time that is constantly building on that fulfillment enablement so that people experience that fulfillment that they seek, and it can also spread into other areas of their life, but also encouraging organizations to work with their employees to enable them, give them opportunities to be fulfilled in their health, in their fitness, right? Of course, their career, but in their relationships and in legacy, meaning looking at the employee and treating the employee holistically. And so if you just think of yourself, right? If your organization is really helping you as an individual, as a human being across the spectrum of these 5 pillars, giving you tools, giving you resources intentionally, then you have a higher propensity to be more engaged in the workplace. And engagement means like, I'm into my job, like I'm doing it with 110%, not at 80%, right? I'm doing it I'm giving it all I have. And I'm also going to stick around longer because the employer is really engaging me holistically as an individual.
Yeah, because at midlife, this is the point at which we do see people leaving the workforce, you know, and they're losing the talent because they don't, we do have a lot of changes at midlife. We have a lot of physiological changes at midlife. We have lots of life stuff going on, a lot of life pressures. So if actually we're in a workplace where we feel like we're being valued at this time of our life, and we're not just kind of being thrown on the dump heap because there's this whole new wave of younger people coming in, kind of like snapping at our heels, trying to take our jobs. I think that's personally, I think that's where a lot of midlifers sit, and they can really feel that way, especially if they're kind of coming towards retirement years, maybe like 5 years off, 10 years off. But actually those people have got so much knowledge, so much wisdom. And it seems such a shame that if they don't feel valued and they don't feel fulfilled, then there's this whole pool of really amazing, juicy talent that kind of gets lost and just gets, kind of thrown away when they don't feel fulfilled.
Yeah. Claire, to that point, the report has 5 sections that specifically speak to engaging with younger generations in the workplace. Because again, the survey was geared for 40 and above, age 40 and above. And across those 5 questions, we have some really interesting insights. And I'd like to share just a few of those in the time that we have remaining here. And the first one is on the question of engaging with younger generations. The predominance was regular engagement of 77.5%. So people over 40 are regularly engaging with the younger employees at 77.5% of them said they engage regularly, right? And so that's definitely encouraging. That is something that employers definitely want to see. Now, what about attitude? Attitude about engaging with younger generations. Well, the predominance there was positive at 75.7%, which is also very good. Only 1.5 said that it was negative. What about frequency of engaging with younger generations? Well, regular engagement at 63%, which is also good. And then what about intention to engage with younger generations? This one gets a little interesting. This one, it says, the finding says that people over 40 are generally engaging with younger generations when it's opportunistic. Only actively engaging 37%, but 50.2% only when it's opportunistic, meaning when the opportunity arises, but doesn't actively seek it out. Only 37% said that they actually seek it out. So 77% say that they regularly engage, but only 37% say they actually do it actively. They seek it out.
Yeah,
well, there's a really clear
that.
message there for organizations, right, about upping that engagement number.
Because they have so much wisdom to share and role models.
Well, I was going to say the other thing is I don't know whether you'd ever have the data in the States to support it, because we have obviously a welfare state here. And I know from a conversation we had with a government minister that was involved in working in health, one of the concerns the last government before we changed administrations had was that they know that there are a lot of people, midlife people, that had stepped out of the workforce, but weren't claiming anything from the state, but also didn't have enough income or assets to be living independently. So like this kind of, and it was a big number. It was in the tens of thousands. So it was like goes well, and they're like, where have these people gone? What are they doing? And at what point are they going to return? How do we get them to return to the workforce? So I think there's a real opportunity there with this work around fulfillment, particularly for this midlife demographic, that this report and the work you could do for organizations could help plug.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You remind me of another data point that I'll share, James. In terms of the geographic makeup of the respondents, definitely US centric. 69% of the respondents were in the US. And then there was a smattering, 5% UK, 5% in other countries, Australia, Canada, India, that sort of thing. But from an employment standpoint, 50.6%, I'll round it up to 51%, are traditionally employed, meaning they work for a business or a nonprofit. 27.5% are self-employed, and another 14% consider themselves entrepreneurs. So basically in the range of 42-ish% are either independent or entrepreneurs versus 50% traditionally engaged. So again, to your point, James, and Claire, you made a similar point, and that is that there's a brain drain. There's people leaving the workforce in midlife. And again, employers want to retain people as much as possible. And so having these insights and developing a fulfillment-centric leadership strategy is certainly one way that they can put a dent in this challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that's something you can help with, right, Bernie? So I'm going to give some plugs here. So Bernie's podcast is really great, actually, the Midlife Fulfilled podcast. So do check that out. We'll put that in the show notes for sure. But Bernie, if someone from an organization is listening to this and they're like, oh, you know what, I'd be interested in having some sort of survey done, like how can they reach out? How can they get in touch with you?
Sure. Well, my website, midlifefulfilled.com, I certainly have an easy way to get in touch with me there. My email is very simple, bernie@midlifefulfilled.com. And to your point, James, certainly a custom version of this survey is something that I do offer as a service. I'm also doing speaking workshops around the findings in this research report, really focused on fulfillment-centric leadership. And so I just think there's a number of ways that we can partner with organizations and really help them retain more of their talent, and that helps them reduce cost and just keep plugging away at their business, hopefully profitably and in a growth way.
Fantastic.
I love this conversation.
And I think as well, Bernie, that people can get like a version of the report as well to have a look at. Not maybe not the full one, but is that right?
Yeah, well, the full report includes the executive summary, and the full report is available. It's free for individual consumption. I do offer corporate licensing, but anybody can download it. So it's available at my website, and I'll give you a link that you can put in your show notes as well. And it's just easily available. Anybody can download it for individual consumption.
Well, we recommend it because it's really, really fascinating to read through, especially obviously we work in this industry. I know it's really, really helpful to see the executive summaries were really, really helpful. So thank you for agreeing to come on and discuss all of this.
Well, thank you for doing the work as well. Kind of shining a light on this.
Absolutely.
It is interesting stuff.
Absolutely. And we totally support and agree with what you're doing in organizations. It's really, really valuable work. So thank you.
Well, thank you for the recognition. Thank you for the opportunity to share it with you on your Midlife Mentors podcast. Again, I'm a fan. And, this is a universal challenge that all businesses struggle with everywhere. It's a global challenge, right? Because we're all just human beings, trying to go through life across these 5 pillars. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to spread the word on ways that we can have a positive impact.
Beautiful.
Love that.
Beautiful.
I love it.
Thank you so much. Right. We'll put the links in the show notes. And thank you again. It's been wonderful to speak to you. Thank you.
Yeah. You've been listening to the Midlife Mentors with Claire and James Davis.
We'd love to hear from you. So drop us a line at info@themidlifementors.com with any questions or topic suggestions.
And make sure you join us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. You can find us under the Midlife Mentors. Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And don't forget to take the Midlife Reset Audit now to receive personalised insights into what's holding you back from living your healthiest, happiest midlife. So go ahead and take the audit now at themidlifementors.com/audit.